We see the attendees filing in now, that number ramping up. We'll just wait another couple of minutes, give more people a chance to log in, and then we'll do introductions and get started. Just a reminder to all our panelists as well, this is now recording.
All good.
Okay, we've given everyone a 2-minute grace period, so we'll get started, and then obviously people can join as they come in as well. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the second Industry Leaders panel held by us here at Edvisor. My name is Ben Delaney. I'm the Director of School Success here at Edvisor, so I look after our partners. I'm delighted to be joined by 5 industry leaders on this panel, including Robin Adams, who is the president of EALC and the director of CES North America. I've got Anna France joining us from Australia, who is the CEO of Langport's English Language College. We've got Danilo Lopez, who is the director and founder of West One as well, who is also based in Australia, but does most of his business in Brazil there. We have Nash Uriza, who is the general director of EduLinks in Mexico. And then we're joined by Jorge Otero, who is the co-owner and executive director of Study Union in Colombia. So first of all, welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us for this panel. I'm going to give a brief kind of introduction to how we run these panels. They are meant to be discussions, and they're a chance for you to give us your experiences and opinions on different topics. And we'll chat for around about 45 minutes. And then we will also answer some questions after that as well. For anyone watching and participating, there is the Q&A function on Zoom that you can send your questions in to us there. And we will also try and keep our eye on the chat box as well. And my role here is really to facilitate the conversation so that we can hear from you industry leading experts as well, first of all. We're going to start with the topic that I think has encompassed everyone's life for the past 6 months. And we're going to have a quick chat about COVID-19 and what has changed. And I suppose my question here really that I'd like us to discuss is, in terms of for the agencies and a school's point of view, how has the COVID-19 pandemic changed the way you work with each other between partner schools and partner agencies? I'll maybe pass on to Jorge to start us off on that topic.
Thank you, Ben. Basically, what the biggest change about the relation with the schools now is that maybe the agencies we become a little bit more selective. Let me say, we value the schools and the universities and the colleges a little bit more than in the past. I can say that. And the relation that my case, I have to recognize, for example, that I was in a study union. We were with a very good surprise that during the pandemic time, we were able to recover money that schools were owing to us. That is fantastic. That gives you obviously a better compromise or more compromise with the schools, with the institutions. So that become us more close more that we are together. Not that you are the school, I am the agency. No, we are in the same industry. We are together in the same industry, and together we can try to be better and to fix everything that we can of what that we need to fix together. That is the most important in my opinion for us.
Yeah, so I'll jump in. I agree with Jorge that I think as schools, we also are very careful with the type of agencies that we're working with. And I think we become closer through that, through this, I guess, pandemic to the agents who we've worked with for a very long time, the loyal partners, etc., that we work closer together to come through the pandemic together. I think that through the pandemic, I mean, in certain markets, there isn't a lot of agency movement in terms of new agencies, but there are some markets where there are a lot of new agencies popping up, and through maybe it's counsellors who've lost their jobs, or and so it's very important for us to look at any individual agency application, and to assess whether what is the risk of working with agents. We don't want to, I guess, we have to be very careful in a pandemic situation, but also we want to make sure that the students are getting the best counselling or the best services. And so working with our loyal partners is really important through that. And I think it's brought some, well, for certainly us, closer with some agencies over others. Danilo, you're on mute.
Danilo, I think you're on mute there.
Better if I am mute. Hello, everyone. I think the pandemic, in a way, it's actually creating creativity amongst all of us. We have to be creative, how to lead the team, how the relationship with the schools and the students, how it's gonna play out, how long this pandemic goes. I think in times like this, probably is the most challenging times ever for our industry. And I think we are gonna learn a lot from this, a lot about the relationship between agents and schools, the relationship between schools and students, agents and students as well. And I think in a way, it's really important that the good players in the market get together to, I think we are gonna talk about this, but maybe to create a new business model. I think it's a great opportunity for us to see deeply how we can do not better than we used to do, but maybe different than what we used to do. That's my take.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that time zones have become irrelevant. As Anna is on the board with me at Yelk, and when we are having our board meetings, it's usually 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night her time, and 4 in the morning for me. So I think that there is a lot more flexibility, and I would echo what Jorge and Danilo and Anna have also said, that trust has become really essential, and that I think that agencies and schools are looking at their relationships, reviewing the loyalty that they've seen on both sides, and that will create, I'm sure, the foundation for business going forward. Agents and schools be looking at how each helped the other through the pandemic. And I think that from a school perspective, look, there have been very difficult situations that our members at Yalc have had to deal with, and they've looked at those relationships and thought, okay, these agencies have supported us for many years. How can we help them through this difficult time? And those are the conversations that I'm hearing over and over again.
Yes, for us, this is a time to have with the partnership closer, because we started to change our way to obtain clients. And that was for us like before COVID with Edolinks and after COVID with Edolinks. But of course, I think we must to work more together, schools and agency, because everybody is in mode suburban. So it's important to have a team, you know? And I think we got that with our partnership with our schools.
And Ben, do you know, if you allow me to add something more?
Yeah.
Another very important part of this change, and that we have to recognize all the time to them, is our staff. The way that the staff of all the agencies, all the schools has been acting, has been reacting, has been helping, has been working much harder than in the past, being available all the time. It is amazing. All of us, we are survivors, and they are survivors with us. They are amazing, amazing people. And I think for all the industry, it's time to say thank you to all of them, agencies, schools, universities, colleges, all this stuff. Is the time to say thank you to all that people.
Yeah, I think that's a really important message there, Jorge, as well. It's been one of maybe the odd things about the pandemic from my point of view, and I think from a lot of people, that we've somehow ended up in a position where businesses, you know, stuttered and struggling a little bit more than usual, yet we all seem to be busier than ever. Someone I spoke to today said they've never hustled so much, and it's so true. And it's interesting because it is really changing the way in which we work, I think, within the industry as well. So I'm kind of interested, Danilo, you sort of touched on that there in terms of a potential new business model as well for the industry. But I'm interested to also find out from you guys, how is it changing for you? Are you speaking less or more with your partners? How are you communicating them with it? I mean, obviously now we're on Zoom, which is certainly a technology. I mean, certainly 12 months ago, I was not that familiar with. Now I feel like it's part of my family. I'm on here so often. So I'm interested to kind of hear from you guys how you feel that relationship's changing for the agency, certainly with the students as well, but from the student, the school and the agency point of view as well.
Yeah, obviously, you know, as we cannot, you know, go everywhere and visit schools and schools visit us. So a lot of Zoom meetings and calls and things like that, even WhatsApp messages and things like that, just to keep in contact. I think, again, we can see a lot of creativity there in the way we interact, which is great. The way some schools interact with our team, you know. Again, I think it's a great opportunity. People are starting to think, all right, well, how can I do different? How can I stay connected to my partners in a new world, you know, in a new reality? And a lot of great things are happening already. And I think a lot of great things will happen in the near future.
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, the challenge is that we don't have those social events where we work on the relationship side of our business. You know, that a lot of our conversations now are very focused on particular objectives, or, you know, working with agencies on new marketing campaigns, that sort of thing, training sessions. But we don't have those great opportunities at various events where we can sit back and you know, have a glass or two together and really get to know each other. And I think that what's interesting there is that, as Anna was saying, that, you know, that it's difficult to establish new relationships in this new model. And so, you know, those of us who've been around for a number of years, it's great to have those relationships to, you know, to fall back on. And because we've had those social opportunities together, those carry us forward. But I certainly miss the opportunities to be social together, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree, because I think that the workshop that we as agencies and institutions used to participate in had the same idea or the same feeling of a student going to study overseas. It's not just to be in a meeting, it's to be with other people, is to have, as Robin said, is to have a beer with someone or a glass of wine, and to have that connection. It's exactly the same with the student. The students for the students is not just to learn online, is to learn about the culture, is to go to meet other people. For us, it's exactly the same. Some days ago, someone say, okay, what about if we have, for example, a workshop that every one of us can be together in a hotel, having the meetings online, but being in the bar in the afternoon. that will be a nice model to try to protect a little bit, but it is, and it's just because the personal relation, the contact with the others, the opportunity to chat face to face with the others is really very important. It's important in our business.
Yeah, and I miss travel. I miss the travel. I miss going overseas to visit the agents as well. I mean, you know, it's always a lot of time out of your busy schedule, but it's also sometimes the highlight of, you know, not necessarily just a workshop, but also going to visit the countries like Colombia or Switzerland or Brazil or wherever it might be, and to go and sit in the office and have that sort of one-on-one chat. Now, we're using a lot of sort of Zoom, or we use Microsoft Teams as well, where we can set up meetings. And, you know, you have a conversation, you have an exchange. It's nice to see faces, you know, like, you know, seeing you guys all on here today. It's nice to see faces, but it's also nice to share about the situation. You know, everyone's in the same situation. And unfortunately, we're not able to have that sort of physical visit. But, you know, virtually it's not terrible, but yeah, you do miss it. And you miss the experience of the culture, arriving in an airport, having crazy stories about how you got from the airport to the hotel and the terrible taxi driver. You know, it's all of those types of things that you kind of miss in this situation. But I think everybody's missing it. So I think that sort of is also a connection that everybody has. And, you know, when borders open up, when, you know, we get back to what's going to be the new normal, it'll be interesting to see, you know, what hybrid mix we have between sort of workshops and business trips and school visits, etc. But, you know, I certainly think that technology has a role to play in the future in terms of, you know, schools marketing and schools communication. But, you know, it won't replace fully that sort of in-person experience.
For us, we miss a marketer in our own agency, of course, and students, but I think in this time I spoke with many people than never. So actually the Zoom, Hangout, WhatsApp is very, very, very active. So of course I miss the people, but to be honest, I speak a lot with many people. So that is good because the technology helps us to be in contact.
I think if I can say a little bit more, Ben, I think it's a good opportunity for us to be in a way more productive. I enjoy the social aspect of getting together and have a drink or something. I enjoy that, don't get me wrong. But I think it's a good opportunity to be more productive, because sometimes we can be too social, too all right, let's get together, have a beer, and maybe not, you know, be as productive as we should in order to develop the industry and our businesses and schools and agents and everything. So again, I enjoy the social aspect of our business, but I think it's a good opportunity for us to be more productive. You know,
Yeah, I would echo that as well. And I think that, you know, from our association's perspective, we're seeing more and more school owners and senior managers very engaged in the student experience, maybe even more than they have been for a long time. And I think also agency owners are, you know, more involved and more active with the students and talking frontline conversations with students, finding out what it is that they're looking for and what they need. And those needs are shifting and changing as well. So I think, again, it's a very interesting time for us to come together as schools and agents to create new products that will help us evolve with the changing demand.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, that the idea obviously of how we maybe look at those connections and how we put them together as well. I do think, obviously, with my advisor hat on as well, we're looking for tech solutions of how we can do that and how we can better facilitate that as well. And from a discussion I actually had earlier on with a school in the US here earlier today as well, they were discussing this idea of the sense of community feel as well. And I think that's quite an important thing as well. Jorge kind of touched on it there as well. You know, we feel that as well as the students. It's obviously a key part of the student experience, but we also feel like part of that community as educators, as agents, you know, as institutions as well. You know, we are part of the international education community, and how we facilitate that is, I think, a key thing moving forward as well. I'll not plug Edvisor too much at this point, because it is obviously a key way to connect between schools and agencies. But I think also we can then look at things like partnerships, and also sort of groups like Real, obviously Jorge that you've created, and Robin, you're the president of IELC as well, or EALC, sorry. In fact, you know, I'd love to get how am I supposed to pronounce that? Because I pronounce it differently every single time.
That is a common question, and I actually had to go to Cesar Renat, who was one of the original founders, to get lessons on how to pronounce it, and he assures me that the very onset of the association, it was pronounced Yalk. So that's okay. What I tried to emulate.
Perfect. But I think that sort of idea of being part of a community is maybe more important now for both schools and agencies as well. So I wonder if maybe, Robin, you could maybe, as with your Yelk hat on, give us maybe a bit of an impression from your side there of how things are coming together, and how the relationships are maybe changing, or are they not changing during this current time through being a member there.
Well, you know, I think that there have been some issues, you know, most notably the refund issue that has strained certain relationships. And, you know, that is something that has come to my attention from different members, from different agencies. So, you know, again, though, I think that agencies and schools have had to sit down and really have long conversations about, you know, the future of their business and how to find solutions to those difficult problems. And, you know, in terms of, you know, technological solutions going forward, I think that there are a lot of things that agencies and schools do on a day-to-day basis. Jorge referenced, you know, the staff earlier. There are a lot of things that the staff are doing that are perhaps repetitive in nature and, you know, take a lot of time. And I wonder, you know, whether those are areas where we can look to technology to find solutions, because I think more and more of us are going to be involved in, as I said, providing fantastic student experiences. And there might be some repetitive functions of our industry that that could be automated, so that we have more time to, on the school side, to make sure that the students are having a great experience and that they are in an extremely safe environment. And then the agency side, that all of the arrangements can be made prior to the student departure. I think that there's certain things like the pricing and the promotions, etc., that we need to get that part more automated. And I keep looking at the tourism industry, in platforms like Galileo and Sabre, Amadeus. How is it that the travel agency or the tourism industry has got all of that stuff so automated, and yet we're still in that situation where agents have to take time out of the sales process to confirm whether the price is correct, and jeopardize losing the sale in the process?
Yeah, I can say that maybe for many years, some people are saying that in our industry we need to have like the Education Expedia platform, and to have like an example. But in our case in Colombia, for us, it's still very interesting and very good that parents and students still wants to have someone face-to-face to talk about the possibilities. Because it's not just to buy a ticket and to go to study. It's an experience, it's an investment. It's as I always say, for example, with the little students in Colombia, the parents ask us, where is my princess going to be? With who is going to live? All these kind of things, Expedia cannot answer those questions. They want to have someone in front of you that can solve this situation, that can give you responses, can give you opportunities. And of course, we need to add to that personal relation, the technology. And the technology is with tools such as Edvisor to facilitate the process to a quote, tools such as CRMs, such as universities or colleges platforms to be or to have the prices more quick and more easy than in the past. But still the human part of our business is something that we have to protect. We have to continue protecting that face-to-face, that human part of our business, including all the players involved in the industry. All the players, and that includes students as well.
So for us in Mexico, I think it's quite the same. Still, parents like to talk with the agency and to the counselor to complain, to ask questions, and to everything. But I think the market is changed because right now students or clients have more information about the schools, about programs, about immigration rules. So for us, there is two challenges right now. One of them is the immediately to send the quotation. So right now, platform like Edvisor for us is very important because we can have the quotation very quickly and sell all information quickly. But of course, one of the challenges for us is to have the knowledge about the programs, about the countries, about the school, about many things. So the training is very, very important because the clients know more information than before, and we need counselors that have the train and information about our partners. So I think right now is starting a lot of platform. Of course, one of them is Panda Portal, for example, that help us to have the team very trained, but Edvisor is very important for us because we can move to send quotation quickly than before. So I think right now, of course, it's starting to sell online and students starting to buy online courses, but some courses, not all courses, boarding schools, high school programs, university programs, I think is still on market are looking for someone for a counselor. So it's changing, but it's still people in Mexico need to have a face, no? And that's the challenge for us.
You mentioned a very good word, Nash, that is counselors. We have to have counselors, not salesperson. That is the big difference. We are counselors. We are not agencies selling programs. That is a very important difference.
I think one thing that, in my opinion, it's important to touch and to talk about is the sustainability of our industry. We're talking about this, and with our close partners, we've been talking about this for the last 2-3 years. I think the way the industry works is the same thing as it used to work 30 years ago. Right now we use internet, we use some social media, but it's basically the same thing as was done 30 years ago. I think for me personally, it's not sustainable, completely not sustainable in the school standpoint and also in the agent's standpoint. If you have a look at the stats and the numbers, you see the last 20 years, the loss of gross margin for both schools and agencies is huge. You have just in Australia in the last 20 years, the inflation was nearly 70%. The real estate increase was nearly 100%. Salary up to 62%, if I'm not mistaken. And the tuition fees are down in 21% in general. And the commissions are higher, the marketing and everything. So for me, it's very clear that it's not sustainable in the long run. Before COVID, I used to predict that in the way we do things would last maximum 5-6 years. With COVID now, I would say maximum 2 years. So what I'm saying is I get everything that you guys are saying, Jorge, Nash. I think we are counselors. Our students are so important. They have to have the best experience. But I think schools are suffering. And in terms of, if you have a look in the last 20 years, that's my view, the quality of what the good schools provide is going down. Slightly going down and down. Not necessarily because of their fault, but it's just the way it is. It's just higher costs, higher commissions, and how can you provide a great service for our students if your revenue is compromised, if your profitability is compromised. So I think one thing that all of us, all the industry has to have a look at is a new business model, a new way to do things. Obviously, what is precious for us, the relationship with schools and with agents and with students, the overall experience, that's something that we have to improve, not just even maintain, but to improve. But how can we do that in a sustainable way? I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves.
It's a good question, Danilo. And I think COVID, I agree with you that COVID has sped things up for the industry to really, reflect on what we're doing and reflect on, as a school, during this time, we've done a lot of reflection, as well as trying to maintain the courses for the students that we've got in the school. We've had, doing a lot of sort of, what next? When borders reopen, what will it look like? When things get back to the new normal, what will the new normal look like? How do we diversify the business not to have such risk? When you rely 100% on international students studying one stream, like Langport's is only English, ELICOS, our risk is we thought was spread because we had nationalities, over 70 nationalities every year in our schools. So we thought, the risk if one nationality, something happens in a country economically, we've spread our risk. But when the whole globe shuts down, and you do rely only on international students, what does that look like for us as a company? Now, we tried to, pivot and do some online. I mean, we taught 4 months of online courses to our students before coming back face-to-face in June. But students who travel to Australia who want the experience don't want to learn online. But we tried to explore were there opportunities to teach online to students from overseas. So trying to look at different things like that, Danilo, and looking at what model does a school take in the future. What model of learning as well. How do we integrate more technology for the students? And a lot of questions come up always. We don't have all the answers yet. It takes time, but certainly having the COVID situation has thrown up a lot of questions for us, I think, as an industry, to have these types of conversations and to try and solve or find the path together. Certainly, there needs to be some kind of working together, because working alone won't solve the issues. I mean, schools' issues are high cost of running, high cost of teaching. Salaries go up in Australia every year. We can't put our prices up. Our rent goes up every year. We have a high cost of rent because we have fantastic buildings and facilities for the students. And we only have one timetable. So we only use that space for one period of the day. Now, do we look at things like having a smaller space but running multiple timetables? Is that an acceptable thing? 5-10 years ago, it wasn't, but the market is changing. So it really, for us, is important to, I guess, also get feedback from agents as what do students want? What do students really care about? Because if students don't care that they have, multiple timetables or the options of having multiple timetables, then as a school, can we change our model? But if that is something that students don't want, or, it's a definite no, then, it's something that we need more feedback. So one of my points, how schools and agencies, I guess, can work together a little bit more is having more open dialogue, more honest conversations, because I'm very believe in honesty. And we have different opinions, and we'll not always agree, which is great. But it's really important to have sort of open dialogue, but also to look at how can we use technology. So, for example, coming back to Edvisor, to help us give data, to help us with data-driven decisions. So, for example, how can Edvisor give agencies and schools more data on market trends? For example, what percentage of Brazilians are choosing to study in Australia, and what age are they? What's their demographic? There's a lot of data potentially that could be taken from booking systems and could help schools to make decisions, and agents too.
Yeah, obviously, I'll pipe in here briefly from an advisor point of view on that as well, because I think you're all touching on points that I think are key to the progression of the industry and pushing it forward as well. As Jorge mentioned, it's not a solution one person is going to come up with. It won't be a school, it won't be a agency, it won't be a university, or indeed, as much as I hate to say it, it won't be a platform that connects schools and agencies either, but it'll be all of us working together to say, okay, what do we need as an industry? Is it, as Danilo was saying, a different approach? Is there a different business model we need to look at as a whole industry? Is it the case that we need open conversation? And I think that's a really important part there, is that open, transparent conversation between schools and agencies and service providers like ourselves as well, to say, okay, this is what we're bringing to the table, so that we can all look at it and sort of pave a path forward for the industry, which I think is a really key integral point there as well. And picking up, Nash, on what you said about training there as well, I think that kind of comes back to this idea of it being a personal industry as well. And from the point of view of Edvisor, for example, one of the questions I've been getting a lot now that I've started this role looking after the schools and speaking to the schools a bit more actively, a lot of people are saying, well, how can I make this work better for me, or what can I do on the platform that's different? And one of the things I've found quite a lot of the time is to explain to schools, we're not replacing the business-to-business contact. Edvisor makes things a lot more streamlined and allows you to get your prices and distribute them very, very well. But as you've all kind of highlighted, there's still that connection that's required. You still need to be able to pick up the phone, get on a Zoom call, get on a Skype call, and have that conversation. And as you say, train the counsellors. And as you're saying, Jorge, I think counsellor is a really important word there as well, because it is passing on that knowledge that they have and that experience they have as well to try and do that. And that's going to allow me to segue on to actually our last topic here, which is a little bit about looking at the future and what we can do differently. And obviously, one of the things that we're looking at doing is strengthening our partnership with YALC, and looking at different training opportunities or different opportunities where we can provide panels like this or other educational events or other certainly training opportunities. One of them, of course, being the YALC workshop that's going to be taking place in November, Robin. So maybe if you want to mention a little bit about that, and that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
On mute.
Thank you. Yeah, just saw that. So I appreciate the segue. And I think that's critical, that YALC as an association is really committed to continuing and creating a platform where we can continue these conversations. We're very proud of our partnership with Edvisor, where we hope we can work together in terms of facilitating more conversations. As you mentioned, in November, we are looking at having a virtual workshop with our partner agencies. So these are agencies that have gone through the accreditation system for YALC. And we hope that these virtual workshops will give agencies an opportunity to speak with the owners and the senior managers of the schools, the people that can make the decisions immediately. And I think that is critical, that we don't have a lot of time to waste. As Danilo mentioned, our industry is changing even more quickly in the wake of this crisis. We need to be able to look at different models. Sherry Murahashi pointed out in the chat here that the social distancing requirements put a lot of pressure on pricing, and in terms of how many students we can have in a classroom. And so, those are conversations that we have to have, agency owner to school owner, senior managers. And we're looking forward to having a virtual workshop in November, the 23rd, 24th of November, where we can facilitate those conversations with Edvisor and hopefully have more agencies go through the accreditation process, so that, again, we have this foundation for trust to facilitate those conversations going forward.
Yeah, the same situation that is happening in the international education sector has been happening here in Colombia with the universities. Year by year, the universities has been receiving less students. The number of enrollments year by year are going down. It's a reality. one of the things, and I am in the same way of Danilo, that maybe we have to, why not, Ben, that is a challenge for you, start to think about is when we are going to listen to students, when we are going to ask the students what exactly they want to receive from us. Maybe we are looking for still thinking that everyone wants to be a doctor, and maybe not. Maybe they want just to have more skills. Maybe they have just to be more, or to have more experience, more life, more and more possibilities to work in what they want to work. When we are going to listen the workers, or not the workers, the companies, because we are feeding the companies. With our students, we are feeding the companies. When we are going to listen them, that is maybe something that we have to start to do to not. I don't want to use that word because I hate that word now. Not to reinvent, to co-create. To co-create our business. It's not a reinvention, it's a co-creation of our industry. And that is maybe, or those are maybe ideas to start to co-create in collaboration with all the players, as I mentioned. The most important players for all of us are the students.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point there, Jorge, as well. You know, at the end of the day, as agencies, as schools, even as a platform that connects you both, the student at the end of the day is the most important part of the whole process, and it's the reason we're all here as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got through that 45-minute chat very quickly, guys. I've got to say that's flown by. As the idiom says in English, time flies when you're having fun.
Ben, can I just say 1 minute?
Certainly.
Just 1 minute, just to give my view about the future and the near future. I think a lot of things will change. The relationship with students, the relationship between schools and agents, and I think schools, they need to focus in their core business, because a lot of energy goes to student acquisition. If you have a look at the numbers, you're going to see that 50 to 70% of the revenue goes to student acquisition. Paying agents, the team, brochures, travels, and everything goes from 50 to 70%. And then you have the rest to invest in their core business, new products, new solutions, and things like that. I think something has to be done in there. And one thing that I think is really important is schools have to think how to train better the agents. A lot of schools, I would say the great majority, they see training as a presentation, a marketing presentation. And I totally disagree with that. I think it's completely different, a completely misconception there. I think schools need to create effective training a module there, where they are going to train digitally, online, in person, whatever, more digitally and online, where they are going to train staff. We know how the turnover happens. You know, they go there, they do a marketing presentation. After a month, there is another staff there. I'll have to go there again. So they have to think how to have training effective, really effective there. Numbers, how to teach staff. If they want to watch it again and watch it again and watch it again, they will do it. So I think a lot of things will change. Less travel, less this social connection that we think it's really important. It's going to be different because people will travel less. You know, so in the school standpoint, the agent standpoint, we have to think of new solutions. I'm just saying that because it's not individually, as you said, Ben, it's not individually, but it's collective, how we can do things different not better, but different. That's something important.
Maybe in that some way, the marketers maybe has to become more supportive, more helping us to achieve the goals than pushing us the agencies for numbers. That is, I think that is a.
I think also, Jorge, just to jump in there, I think that's also perhaps a reason for selecting Yelp schools is that, you know, the conversations are not necessarily with marketers per se, but more with school owners, senior managers in the schools, people that will be there for many years and have been there for many years. And you know, I think that's where Edvisor and Yelp are looking at creating more environments to continue these discussions, because we're not going to come up with the answer in just one 45-minute session, but they are prolonged and discussions that are modular and build on each other towards finding, hopefully, a successful resolution in the near future.
I think we are changing schools and agency because, of course, for example, the training, when marketers come to the office and take 1 hour of my team training and school, but we want to sell at this moment, you know. So, for example, that's why I think, and the school pay a lot of money to send the marketer to our office. So we are grateful because they are there, but we want to move forward to do something else. So that's why that kind of platform to train is very important, like Panda Portal, for example, or this school will change with the brochures. We have a lot of brochures, and sometimes we finish the year and we have brochures still. Yeah. So for example, right now, that will change because nobody needs a brochure. More with the COVID, you know. So, and the challenge to sell, to obtain the clients right now for us, that is changing too. In the past, we used to go to the schools and explain to the teachers and make a presentation at school or in our office. And right now it's a webinar by Zoom or a live by Instagram or Facebook. So I think after COVID, we're going to be different, everybody, agencies and schools, and we'll be more productive in our mode of working. So I think very positive about COVID, and I think that change will help us a lot.
And we need to review the schools and courses, because the schools and courses, they became commodity. It's really difficult for an agent now to differentiate one school to the other, one course to the other. And it's difficult to do the counseling with students and tell them the difference between this and the other, because it became commodity. We need to change that. If you have a look in the hotel industry, they have stars there, right? So there is a system there to be able to review a hotel and tell if it's 4-star, 5-star, 3-star. We have to have an independent body to review schools, to review courses, so we can actually say, it's not me, because we are biased. I understand that. When we are doing the counseling, we are biased. And instead of us saying that, we go like, listen, this is an independent body, and it's reviewing schools and courses and things like that. Because I'm here with 2 great schools, and there are lots of other really dodgy schools. Then some agents go, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, just cheaper. How can you say that it's different? It became really difficult. So this is something important. We have to find a way, not independently, but an independent body, not us, but an independent body to review schools and courses. I think this is also something really important that we need to do.
I'm going to try and move us on to the Q&A because we are just running out of time slightly as well. But Daniel, I think that's a really interesting point, and I think from a certainly from my perspective, from when my experience as a school previously, and I don't know, Anna and Robin, you can maybe comment on that briefly as well. I think there's also maybe, and I imagine this is very difficult for agencies as well, that there's such a variety between markets and countries. So the accreditation body in the UK is different to that in the USA, which is different to that in Canada, and different to Australia, and different to New Zealand. And I think that does pose a challenge in that sense, in terms of a consistent sort of worldview, if you like, of an unbiased worldview, as you're pointing out there as well. Because obviously, you know, when you're at a school, that is going to be your biased opinion as well in terms of that school. So I think that is an interesting point to raise, definitely. Now I am going to pop into the questions, and Anna, I'm going to start with you, if that's quite all right, and I'm going to just throw these questions at you. And an interesting question we got first up from Basilio Carvalho, or Carvalho. Apologies for my pronunciation there. My Portuguese is awful. Are the schools financially prepared for reopening? And I think that's quite an interesting point.
I don't quite understand the question in terms of the reopening. I mean, we've been open through the period. We taught online for 4 months. And otherwise our schools have been open, teaching English to students who are still in Australia. And if it's referring to borders reopening, you know, I think all schools are doing the best that they can to conserve, you know, to, I guess, preserve their financial position for as long as possible, and looking at when borders will reopen. For Australia, it's still uncertain. I did answer a chat question from Laura earlier just by typing, but for example, in Australia, I can't speak for other countries, but in Australia, the borders, international borders, are still closed. Situation is that even Australians are having difficulties coming into Australia because of the limited number of flights, affordable flights, and quarantine accommodation. But there are pilot programs for international students that they've started. And I believe there's 70 students coming on a repatriation flight with about 300 Australians and 70 international students to Australia. Either this month, I think it's around this month, to come back. And we're starting to look at, and I'm working really hard trying to lobby governments here in Australia to look at how do we reopen the borders for students in a sustainable, safe way. But it's not one school that's going to come up with the plan. It's all schools together. So there is some news. But you know, how long it will take, we don't know. That's a very difficult and uncertain question. So I think most schools are trying to do as best they can to preserve and last as long as it will take. That's from my side anyway, from what I see happening in the industry.
Perfect. Thank you, Anna. Okay, I'm going to hop on to a question here from Bruno Perron, which was actually directed directly at you, Jorge. But it's one that I think is quite, well, there was one maybe, we may all have an opinion on this. Bruno's asked, Jorge, do you think we can stop or slow down the technology from owning the industry as Expedia has done with the tourism industry?
No.
No?
Let me say, as I mentioned, the technology is very important. We have to continue. We need to continue growing in terms of the technology, but the technology such as Expedia, for example, Expedia replaced a lot of travel agencies, and I think that we are not at the same position. We still have people who can or who wants to talk to us, who needs to be the counseling that we can give to them is different than in the travel agencies industry. So the technology has to continue. The technology, we need to continue building technology to give to everyone a better solutions, quicker solutions, etc. But definitely when I say no, is that the technology, I think, is not being replaced now. Their agencies or the bookings with the schools, such as Expedia with tickets or Expedia with hotels, is my opinion. Maybe we need to, at certain point in the future, we will be there. Yeah, maybe, but in countries such as the Latin American countries, that is different than the European countries. That is good for us. Students and parents still wants to talk to us,
I think I just add on to that as well. I think from my point of view, certainly, I mean, I'm speaking on behalf of Edvisor here as well. Edvisor was created because it saw a need and a gap in initially the agent's processes, and in something that would be a useful tool to help agencies collate the information and bring that together. And I think that's one thing about the technology in terms of not cannibalizing the industry itself, but actually aiding the industry and saying, right, we're seeing an issue here, we want to try and address that issue. And that's something I think at Edvisor we're very keen to do as well, in terms of, I think certainly everyone on this call know I'm very active from a schools point of view, and our agency team are really active as well in terms of getting feedback and saying, are we doing the right thing? Is there something that would be more useful? Is there something we can develop further within the system to try and help that process as well? And rather than try and certainly overtake anything, what we want to try and do is facilitate more of that relationship and that process.
But it's a combination, Ben, because Edvisor quotation system, just the quotation system that is very good, is not enough. You have to have a quotation system with a very good CRM that in order to, and if you can link the two of them, that is fantastic. But the human part is still very important. Is really still very important. But of course, those kind of tools, those kind of technological tools, we need that. We need to continue growing in this kind of tools for sure.
If I can just add, I think that's one of the reasons why Yalc selected working with Edvisor, was that we saw that this was a platform that didn't just prioritize pricing, that it was looking at featuring many of the aspects of the schools. The differentiators are highlighted in the platforms, but I mean, I think that's exactly it, that what we want and what we need as schools is we need for agents to be able to have those critical pieces of the price component at their fingertips, so that they don't have to wait for us to wake up in a certain time zone, etc. So they can rely on that information being accurate, and they can then spend more time with the student in the sales process. And we think that there's a real need for an industry platform that everybody can rely on to make sure that the automated components are dealt with, so that we can all focus more on delivering quality service to the students.
Great. I'm going to try and, we've only got a couple minutes left, but I want to try and cover as many of the questions that have been asked as well. One that's quite an interesting one, this is coming from a school owner for Snezana, who said, what's the percentage of students abroad buying online courses now? As a school owner looking to market and sustain my business, I'm wondering how much time / money I should devote to online marketing. Nash, maybe this would be a good one for you to maybe give us your opinion on, in terms of how have online course sales been for you in general, compared to what they normally would be, or compared to the in-country person teaching?
Okay, online courses. For me, in Mexico market, I found that online courses is successful, and I think they're going to keep for the future. But the key is to offer courses with a specialty. For example, like IELTS preparation, TOEFL preparation, pathway for university, for high education. But the challenge is to sell English courses because only English courses because our students want to travel abroad. So they want to go outside. And I think they prefer wait to the border is opening to travel and study outside, But if you are offering some courses like IELTS preparation, that could work. Another thing that I think could be a good product is English courses online, but for children's. I think that is an opportunity. And for example, there is a platform of schools who is starting, and that is offering English courses for children's, because children must keep with the parents, So, but it's a necessity to teach English and to learn English to the children. So I think online courses is good, but not only general English courses. That is in my opinion.
Okay, very, very good.
In my opinion, Ben, the problem with the online courses for us and for the international institutions are the local providers. To compete with them, the change rates is almost impossible. So it's not easy. And if you offer, such as some institutions, very low prices, of course, it's not good in terms of profit for you, and not as well in terms of profit for us. So that is a big problem. So in our case, in our country, what we are seeing now is that the English programs are becoming part of the wishes of the people who wants to travel further. So I start here in an online program because I am planning to travel. Mm-hmm. That is good, because that, especially in this time, that gives you some cash flow that is important, but it has like a reason. It's not just, as we mentioned at the beginning, not just to study English, because they want to have the experience of living overseas.
Ben, if I can give quickly my opinion there, I think if schools try to match what other online platforms do, forget it. Completely forget it. They have to use what they have. They have to use what they know. So what they do is they are, in Australia, England, whatever, Canada. So they welcome the student and they teach them there. How can they do that digitally or online? Mm-hmm. Because if they want to match, those English platform, forget it. I don't think it's going to work.
Agree.
So in my opinion, they have to create a new product, because if you have a look, how many students go to, certain schools every year? So how about if they start learning before they come and after, when they go back home? So schools lose a huge opportunity of teaching before and after. So it can be a combined thing: before, then travel to the destination, study there, and then when they go home, they keep studying. But a different platform, a different product. I really believe there is something there, but not to compete with online platforms that there is already.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for your opinions on that. I think that's going to be really useful to the schools that have tuned in to hear your opinions on that, because I think that's a hot topic inside for schools at the moment. Now, I am the next question. I'm actually, the two people have mentioned this, one in the chat, one in the questions. Marcela, hello in Brazil. Marcela Amaral, who's asked this question, and also in the chat from Basilio, very similar, and it's similarly related to that first question as well. I'm actually just going to mention the question because I feel like this could be a whole an hour long conversation on this. But the question is really based around, what do you think of a safety net to protect student fees when students have not started their program? This is a major concern when we're not sure if schools or agents are going to survive after the pandemic. Now, I think that is a very big question to answer, and it's one that I wouldn't put any pressure, certainly on Robin or Anna, to answer maybe in this time as well. But I think that's maybe one for a future webinar, a future panel to be discussed more fully, because I think that is an interesting concept and one that people maybe are certainly thinking about.
No, I think I can jump in, Ben, if you want. You know, very, very briefly anyway, I think that it speaks to the importance for agents in terms of doing their research, you know, when choosing and selecting schools. But, you know, certainly I think for our association, YALC, we have a very comprehensive inspection program and our inspection scheme, and the financial aspect is definitely part of that scheme. We're one of the only associations that uses the same inspection scheme for all of our members. So it doesn't matter if you've got a school in Japan or you've got a school in the United States, we're using the same scheme to investigate and make sure that all of the schools are at a global standard. So I would say that, you know, the importance of you know, accreditation has certainly amplified in the wake of this crisis.
And I'll jump in. I'll just say in Australia as well, I mean, students who are coming on student visas have a tuition protection scheme as well. So there are some protections in Australia from a government point of view for that reason. So I'm not sure about other markets, what it's like in UK, Canada, etc. But certainly in Australia, there's some protection around some of the government regulations here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your input on that, guys. I am actually going to address one more comment in there from an advisor point of view. Carmen Jaramillo has said, language schools is not the only options. We also work with universities, colleges, undergraduate, graduate, and different options of study. Each country has differences in their needs. We don't only work with languages, we work with exchange programs as well. That must be added to Edvisor. And I quite agree. And that is something that we are developing further. We have recently moved quite a way into the higher education sort of part of the industry, and that's an area that we are looking to develop further. Edvisor wants to be a central source of information for all types of international educational travel, and that's something that we will be definitely looking at and continuing to develop as well. So please do speak to your reps at Edvisor, give us your feedback, give us your advice. We are here as a service provider for you guys, both schools and agents. So we'd love to hear from you and then look at what we can do to help develop things further. With that, I am going to say a final thanks to Danilo, Anna, Robin, Jorge, and Nash. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's been really useful for everyone that's attended, and of course we'll send it round as a recording as well, so people can watch it back tomorrow or later today for you if you're in that part of the world in Australia. But thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely evening or a great day tomorrow.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ben.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.